Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I am joined again today by the amazing Lindsey Zirker. She joins us from Kidney Nutritional Institute. She is one of their head renal dietitians there. And Lindsey did a podcast with us a little while ago on oxalates, which has actually been one of our biggest podcasts on our channel, Lindsey. I don't actually think I told you that. So we're doing a follow-up today on just more about oxalates, how you would reduce them in the diet, who needs to reduce them, and anything else that you want to add to that amazing topic. So, Lindsey, firstly, thank you for joining me. I know you just got back from holiday and you're probably still trying to decompress, and I've chucked you on here, but I always appreciate your wisdom and time. So thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here. I always love doing podcasts with you. Super fun.
Oh, yeah, I love having you on board. So talk to me. Let's just quickly, for those who haven't maybe watched your other podcast, what are oxalates?
Yes, so oxalates are substances that are found in plants. They help regulate minerals and help protect the plants against external threats or conditions. They, for us, though, are really considered a non-nutrient. Like our body doesn't really use them for anything. Yeah, we don't need them. They just happen to be in many plant foods that we eat. So that's what they are.
And why are they a potential problem? Because they're not a problem for everybody, so we might need to talk about that. But why are they a potential problem for some people with kidney disease?
Yes. So oxalates, they can bind with other minerals to form crystals. And there's multiple people who may need to watch for this. So people who have kidney stones, oxalates are one of the most common types of kidney stones that are around. And so sometimes people may need to watch oxalates in their diet to help reduce the risk of having kidney stone formation. Also, people who have polycystic kidney disease, they may need to follow a lower oxalate diet to help reduce the risk of cyst formation, because the oxalates can contribute to that. And then also just people in general who maybe have had like gastric bypass surgery or their gallbladder taken out. They have maybe not very good digestion. The poor digestion of fat increases oxalate absorption, and like very high oxalate absorption can contribute to kidney damage, or again kidney stones and things like that. So sometimes people have to watch oxalates for those reasons.
Okay. And tell me, there's not, the list isn't exhaustive, but what are your top oxalate foods if people listening to this going, well, I've got PKD or I'm prone to making kidney stones. What are these oxalate foods that I might need to avoid?
Yes. So the foods that tend to be the highest in oxalates are foods like spinach, almonds, rhubarb. There's different types of tofu. Like some tofu is not as high in oxalate as others. And like those tend to be like the really, really highest ones.
Okay.
The data on like milligrams of oxalate is a little bit fishy sometimes. So you always have to take it with more than a few grains of salt when you're looking at the actual milligrams. But those ones always show up as the highest for sure.
Yeah. So say someone is predisposed to kidney stones or has PKD or has had a gastric bypass and all those things you mentioned. How would one go about lowering oxalate levels in their diet? And is there more than just weight than removing foods?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up. We always call it a oxalate managed diet. Just because, like I said, the data on oxalates, it's not really great. And the amount of oxalates in the food can be so different depending on the type of soil it was grown in, or even the weather condition when it was picked. Like there's lots of reasons that the oxalates could be different. And so it's not very valuable or very impactful to really micromanage those milligrams of oxalate and try and aim for a specific amount. But if you do an oxalate managed diet, there's basically 4 ways to manage oxalate. You can avoid the really high oxalate foods, like those just few ones that I mentioned. And then other oxalate foods that are kind of higher in oxalates, you can pair them with sources of calcium to help reduce the absorption. And kind of along that same vein, you can work with your healthcare provider to ensure that you have good fat digestion, because that will also help reduce absorption of oxalates. And then you want to drink adequate fluids. And also you can include sources of citrate. These things can help reduce the formation of the crystals from oxalates. So those are kind of the 4 basic ways that we work to address that.
Amazing. So let's dig in. Give me an example of pairing an oxalate food with a calcium-laden food.
Yes. So raspberries are a kind of high oxalate food. And so if you wanted to enjoy those, then it would be really easy to pair it with a Greek yogurt, or if you're doing fully plant-based, then you could do it with a like a coconut yogurt that's fortified with calcium. A really easy way to pair those two up, and that will help reduce the absorption of the oxalate.
Amazing. And tell me a little bit more about maximizing or optimizing fat absorption. How is that? How would you work with a patient or that, or how would someone know whether that's something that's functioning well for them or not?
Yes. So a lot of times if people aren't absorbing fat very well or digesting it very well, they may have to kind of run to the bathroom pretty quick after eating. It's a pretty uncomfortable situation. They also may have their stool may float quite a bit. And so those are 2 fairly easy indications, but also, like I previously mentioned, if you have had like gastric bypass or your gallbladder taken out, then there probably isn't optimal fat digestion going on there. So a typical way to address those is a lot of times people get recommended a low-fat diet, but that may not always be appropriate, because then that means you're not getting all those beneficial fats that help with reducing inflammation and balancing hormones and heart health and all those things. So, and it really doesn't address the root issue. Like you're just eating less of something so it doesn't bother you, which sometimes, is okay. So sometimes I like to find out like what the problem is. Sometimes also people, they don't have very much stomach acid. So then that doesn't signal the body to really release all those digestive juices and things. So if that's the case, then I like to kind of work backwards and say like, oh, do they have an H. pylori infection, or have they been on omeprazole or things like that that have lowered their stomach acid, and correct that. And then you're not on like a lifelong supplement or anything. Which is nice. Otherwise, sometimes like taking an ox bile supplement can really help until you really find out the root cause. You don't have to deal with those really unpleasant symptoms, and that can really help as well. Also ensuring that people are getting adequate vitamins and minerals to ensure that, they can make all of their digestive enzymes and things. Like, for example, you have to have zinc to make your stomach acid. So that could be an issue for people. So those are some of the things that I work through to try and help with fat digestion. But also you can work on vagus nerve activation, which helps promote really healthy digestion. Because stress can also reduce your ability to digest your foods really well. And the vagus nerve can help combat that on that front, which is kind of nice because it's not another pill to take or thing.
Yeah, great. Now, remind me, what else did you say in that list of 4 things? So we had fat, we had what we just spoke about before, my brain.
So we had choosing the lower oxalate foods, pairing foods with calcium, working on the digestion, and drinking adequate fluids.
That was the one.
Yeah.
So what does that look like in a perfect oxalate-friendly world?
Yes. So it can look kind of different for everyone. Like sometimes people who have kidney problems, they have a little bit more of a fluid restriction. So that's something that could need to be really individualized. Generally, we're looking, upwards of 2 liters a day for some people, like especially those who have PKD. We're recommending 2 liters of fluid a day to help keep things diluted. And so if you don't have a fluid restriction, that would be a good place to start. But like if you live in a warmer climate, or it's summertime and you're a lot more active outside, you would probably need to increase your fluid intake.
And walk me through, how does increasing fluid reduce the oxalate load? It can't be as simple as dilution. How does that mechanism work?
For a lot of it, it is helping to dilute any of those formed crystals. It helps because if it's really concentrated, then it's really easy for those crystals to form. So if they're diluted out, then, things are kind of spread out so they don't get clumped together and they don't form the crystals. But another, benefit of it too is that it helps to prevent UTIs, which can also be really common in our people who have kidney problems, and because it helps flush out that urinary system. So there's not very much opportunity for bacteria to grow and create havoc. So primarily it is the dilution piece.
There you go. Simple as that.
Yeah. But the other piece that it kind of goes hand in hand is including sources of citrate, because citrate also helps to reduce stone formation. It helps the kidneys hold on to the calcium, so you don't waste as much calcium. And then it helps make that urine pH a little bit more ideal, which can help dissolve crystals. And again, if you don't have enough fluid, then the citrate can't be quite as effective in doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it helps with both of those.
And walk us through citrates, because I know I love to use them as an alkalizing method in kidney disease versus bicarbonate and we've spoken about this in another podcast, but yeah, walk me through why you love citrate so much, and especially because of its link to oxalates as well.
Yeah, citrate is really alkalining, and so it's really easy, especially this time of year, to just be adding like lime or lemon juice to your drinking water, or you can make like lemon or lime ice cubes and pop that in. That way you don't have to, if it doesn't always work to have the fresh produce on hand, just make them in ice cubes, or you can use it in salad dressings or smoothies. So it's really, pretty easy to add in that. But if you can't get enough in that way to really shift, especially if you've had additional testing done, you have to shift that urine pH, then you can use some supplements like magnesium citrate or calcium citrate, or if your potassium also runs low, like potassium citrate. So it really helps ensure you get all those minerals, which also beneficially help with blood pressure and things like that. So you can be able to, I love when you have different interventions that help with more than one issue at a time, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yes, I love citrates. That's why it's in our alkalizing formula. And of course, our alkalizing formulas will actually help with oxalate formation and binding them out, because the mag citrate in there, and sour cherries and a few other things that are nettle seed, which is a bit of a diuretic, which will help with the dilution stuff that you talked about. So I like that for that.
Yes, that's perfect. I love that.
Yeah. Perfect. Is there anything else that people that are wanting to be avoiding or reducing their oxalate load because they're prone to kidney stones, PKD, etc., that we haven't covered that you think people need to know about?
I would definitely say to remember the diminishing law of returns. That, think of it kind of like a curve, that there's so much effort that you can put into doing something before your effort is not really giving you the added benefits. So I feel like oxalates is a really good example, that having an oxalate managed diet and including, these 4 different ways that we discussed, like doing all of them is helpful, but definitely not at the expense of making you too afraid to eat, or making you exclude so many different types of foods that it's really hard for you to eat enough to get all of your nutrients or to have a happy food life. That is a diminishing law of returns right there, because you're sacrificing a lot that's not really, like, that added stress and the increased risk for malnutrition. It's not worth it. And so definitely, being balanced in your approach and recognizing when you're putting in effort and then thinking, actually, this isn't really giving me all those benefits that I thought. Just make sure that your effort is is matching those benefits that you get. Because when you are really proactive about your health, it can be really easy to kind of get stuck in that rut of being really willing to do whatever it takes, but then sometimes not always putting your energy where it's really not actually benefiting you. And that's why it's nice. A lot of people have great people on their health team to help them kind of identify that, because sometimes we don't see the forest for the trees, right? We're just like so focused on doing everything. So be willing to have those conversations with your team and just say, hey, I'm doing all these things. Is this really getting me where I need to go? And making sure that you're putting your energy into the right areas.
I think that is a fabulous point, and it's a point with anything chronic disease related and diet, because like you say, the stress of trying to avoid foods and all those sort of things has its own recurring and impact on us. So I know. Yeah, no, I think that's a really fabulous point to end on, Lindsey. Thank you. Really valuable. Well, I think that's it, but it's a nice short one. But, people were asking how they can manage their oxalate levels. And I do think there are a lot of people looking into oxalates at the moment. And I do feel like it's a topic that, without understanding it, I think too many people are removing oxalates to a degree and causing stress that they may not need to. So I'm seeing that in practice at the moment. Oxalates seem to be bad of things to take out. And generally, like you say, improving digestion and a few other bits and pieces, unless you're really at high risk. I think oxalates have been removed by some people unnecessarily and causing other nutrient deficiencies. So that's my take on that as well. But definitely with PKD and kidney, if you're really prone to oxalate, kidney stones, and that can be something like that. So I always appreciate your wisdom and coming on and sharing with us. And I know, like I say, you just got back from a holiday, so thank you. Hopefully you'll get some nice sleep tonight. You don't have that massive storm going through that I was told was happening today over there.
Well, I don't know. My mom, I was talking to her right before I got on with you, and she said that they got hail on Monday. And then when we were driving home yesterday afternoon, the rain was coming down so hard that we could not even hardly see the road. Like,
there you go.
We could tell there was a semi in front of us, and we were just like, do we need to pull over? But it didn't last. Like we drove through it fast enough. But yeah, it was pretty intense. But today it's primarily just been really windy, which is kind of normal for here.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're okay and you're back from your holiday. So if you want to know more about what Lindsey does, I'll put the link in below. But she's one of the head team there at KNI as a renal dietitian and works a lot with people with oxalates and PKD, as well as just straight kidney disease and all of the wonderful, not so wonderful, but she's wonderful in the way that she works with people with anything that's kidney related. So I'll put her details in below. If you want to know more about what we do, head to www.kidneycoach.com, with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're all just those /kidney coach. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. That way you'll get notified anytime we put up more information. And if you have any questions or comments, link them and put them below, and I will make sure to answer them for you. Lindsey, thanks again. Enjoy your evening, and I will chat to you next time.
Okay. Thanks so much, Fiona.
Bye.
Bye.